We've reached the stage of our lives where adulting really matters. We have jobs, we have bills, and we're prepping for the future. But in all honesty, we don't really know what we're doing.
Cindy and I discuss challenges we currently face when it comes to getting older, and we have a candid conversation about the ways in which our past dictates our future.
Good evening and humble salutations, Chanel.
What the?
How's it going?
It's going well. How's it going for you, old-time lady?
I'm feeling great. I think we're in the swing of these things. Because what is this? This is now episode number 6.
Whoop, episode 6.
We've come far. We have come very far.
This is the end of season 1.
It is the end of season 1. Can you believe that we actually got ourselves together?
Look at the consistency.
Period. Talk about consistency. Mm-hmm. Showing up, putting in the work,
doing what we're gonna say.
Yeah, sticking to our commitments. Yeah, I got what you were trying to say. Trying to say. But I'm actually really excited about this episode. When we were talking about this podcast, I think this episode itself kind of set the stage for the podcast, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think we're gonna have a really good discussion today. And to kick things off, I'm gonna ask you a question. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Chanel, can you tell me, how old do you feel?
That is a good question.
I know, right?
Honestly, it depends on the day. And there's a couple aspects to this. So first of all, I feel like going to college, especially master's degree, PhD, like higher education, that took years off of my life.
Yep.
It feels like it aged.
You got to add a pandemic in the middle of all that.
Yeah, but the pandemic, I feel like I didn't age during the pandemic because nothing happened.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
You feel me? So simultaneously at the same time, I felt older because of all the trauma of education, but then the pandemic was also trauma, but nothing happened. Yeah. For me, at least. And so that kind of stagnated. So especially, after the 3 years out from the pandemic, even though, it's still going on, people wear a mask.
Wear a mask. Please.
Wear a mask. But 3 years out, I was like, I feel the same age I did before or in 2020 when the pandemic happened. But, it's double-sided. So I would say if I had to choose an age that I feel right now, I would probably say 25, but my soul age is a different age. I feel like my soul is like 52. I hope that makes sense. Like I'm simultaneously 25 and 52 at the same time.
You had me up until you said 52. Like I get the whole feeling one age but soul age differently, but I don't understand where 52 came from. Especially because what is 52? What does it mean to be 52?
Here's the thing. I feel like 52-year-olds are tired. My soul is tired.
I see. Okay.
So that's why it feels old.
Okay.
My soul is tired. It's 52.
Okay.
It's like, dang, we got 50 more years to go. Luckily,
that makes sense.
I'm out. That's what my soul's saying. But
52 was random, but I see what you meant.
Yes.
Yeah. I would have to echo what you said, but it's different in the sense that I feel my age because I don't know what else I would feel, right? Yeah. If someone were to ask me, how old are you? I recently turned 27. So I'm at that awkward stage where I haven't been 27 that long. So I would probably say, I'm 26 before I change to 27. But I feel my age. I just think that I don't know what that standard is for my age. And what I mean by that is I don't know what the standard is or what society would say a 26, 27-year-old is supposed to be doing. And I think that's kind of where I might have a bit of challenging of that age identity. because I know myself that I've been on this earth 26, 27 years, and I'm doing what I believe a 26, 27-year-old would do. But then if I try to relate myself to my peers, I'm just like, oh, am I really at the like mental capacity, physical capacity to be a 26, 27-year-old? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. And I feel like a lot of that comes from societal expectations, okay?
Oh, for sure.
Because I don't know about you, but when I was 17, if I went back in the past and said, "Hi, Chanel, I'm from the future. Can you tell me what you think your life would have turned out as?" I would have graduated from college, got married by 25, had probably 3 children by the time I'm 30, and then have an excellent job, and I don't know. I would have been living life. That was the expectation. And I remember when I was 17, I was like, "You're 21, you're so old. Oh my God, you're old. You old person." So now that I'm 27, I'm like, dang, 21's not old. You're a baby. You're not a baby. You're an adult. You're an adult, but you're young.
Right.
You are young.
I mean, but even still, comparatively to where we are now, even though the age 21 is an adult, I look at my 21-year-old self and I consider my 21-year-old self a baby for how naive I was.
Yeah.
You know? And for me, I believe like a lot of as well. I think my biggest issue, and the reason why I was saying before, trying to compare myself to my peers, is, as you know, I went and I got an advanced degree. And so I'm experiencing my first year of being a quote unquote adult, of being not in school at the age of like 26 or 27. I graduated at 26. I'm now 27. And most people who are at our age of 27 have been out of school for about 5 years. And so they've done the whole like falling down, getting back up, because when you're 21, 22, you're naive. You don't know how the world works. You're able to make mistakes. And so they had the opportunity to do that for 5 years. So they're now at this point where, they've been working in their career for 5 years. They've either been promoted or they switched jobs. They've moved. A lot of people have done the whole thing of getting married and having kids because, as society says you should, you go to school, you get a job, you start dating, you get married, you have babies. Right? And so for me, at my age of 27, I feel as though that this is supposed to be my time to start falling down and getting back up and making mistakes. But from the society standpoint, I should be a more established adult. You're almost 30, Cindy. Why is it that you're making, not unsound, but bad financial decisions? Like, anybody at your age should know that you shouldn't go and put all your money into whatever. Go gambling in Vegas and take your bonus and spend it all. Everybody knows you shouldn't do that. You should be putting it into your savings account. Why don't you have a Roth IRA, Cindy? How much money do you have for your 401k? All of this is hitting me right now because I am 27 and there's these expectations that by the time that you're 30, you should have at least a year's worth of your salary saved into your 401k. But for me, who has only started doing this about 8 months ago, I have 3 years to get to the point that a lot of people have had 8 years to do. And so for me, that's why it's just like that whole concept of aging is just like, that's where it's a little bit disconcerting, where it's like, I know that I'm 27. I feel like I'm 27. But when I compare myself to my peers, I'm like, ooh, am I behind?
You see, but here's the thing, and this is one of my favorite things that I've learned in life, and it's that nobody knows what the hell they're doing. Nobody knows.
Yeah.
You look at anybody, everybody's just winging this crap. Like, everybody's winging it. Nobody knows anything. They really don't. And they're just good at pretending. I don't know. But yeah, people don't know what they're doing. So when you say, "Oh no, I'm feeling behind," chances are there's other people like, "I'm behind," and they already have $100,000 in their 401k or whatever. And then in addition to that, like, we have high standards for ourselves. But if we look at like most people don't got their lives together. They really don't, especially in America. Financially, absolutely not. But like, even just, like life, there's people out here who did the conventional thing, our parents or some people in our generation where, they got the job, They got the degree,
Yeah.
they got the job, they got the cars, they have the kids, they have the house, and then their life, they're still not happy. They still don't have anything together, and then in our economy, they're financially struggling. So it's kind of like, I don't know. For me, I've kind of had to take a step back from, okay, so my life is going to look like this and this and this, to like, oh crap, I actually have to choose what I'm going to do with my life because I don't have a plan, because society's plan doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
And that's scary.
It is scary. It really is. And like, to the point that you're saying, there has to be a balance, right? Between like focusing on living in the now and planning for the future, right? Because as you said, the idea that nobody really knows what they're doing. It's also hard to say, like, it's hard to like fathom that, especially because people who look really put together look really put together, because you can't see what's going on inside. But how does one balance that though? You know, especially for us at this stage in our lives, because we both went and got graduate degrees, and comparatively, we started things late. How much of it should we be, or how much of our time should we be focusing on living in the now versus planning for the future? And I know, like, you don't have the answers, but like,
and nobody has the answer.
That? Yeah, nobody does. Nobody does. But to make sure that you set yourself up correct, it's like, I want to be able to go on all these trips, but I don't want to be blowing away my money every single month. That by the time I hit 60, I have to still work a job because I have nothing set aside for myself. Yeah.
I think for me, I attack this from the perspective of someone who's an ex-perfectionist, no longer a perfectionist.
You don't consider yourself a perfectionist?
You know, do you ever actually shed your title? I feel like I have those tendencies, but I've been trying to wean myself off of it. And like, for example, even with our cover art for the podcast, every time I look at it, I'm like, I could have done this, and I could have edited this, and that I should have smoothed that path on that, and I should have, maybe I should make that a little light. And I'm like, it's done. It's done.
Yeah, it's done.
Good enough is good enough. I don't need to spend any more time on that. So
yeah,
I've been working on not being a perfectionist anymore, because it's the enemy of creativity and getting things done. So I attack it from that perspective, where it's more like, don't be perfect. Because if you try to be perfect, if you're all or nothing, it's going to be nothing. So like, for me, when I don't hit some of my, budgeting goals for, retirement or savings, I don't beat myself up. I just think, okay, next month, what can I do to get back on track? As opposed to, just being like, well, I didn't make it this month. I guess next month, let's go to Cancun. I don't know. And so I feel like I take it from that perspective, where you don't have to be perfect. You just have to keep trying, and you just have to keep making progress. Even if you take a step back, just make sure you take a step forward. You know what I mean? So that's the perspective I take it from. And then it's hard because, especially with us, I feel like we sacrificed a good portion of our 20s being miserable. And so now I'm like, I want to have fun. I want to party. Let's go. Well, we don't really party, but you get what we're saying.
Right. Yeah. Making memories. We want to worthwhile.
Exactly. And on that memories point, I saw a video where, I don't remember the context, but it was this guy, and he was basically saying that you can make your life one day, or you can make it 3,000 years. And it's all comes down to the memories you're making. Is your everyday the same? If every day you wake up and you do the same routine, you hang out with the same people, you go to the same places, you go home and you watch the same shows and all that stuff, are you making any new memories? If you're not living. Like, you have to branch out and do new things in order for you to actually remember more days than just one. Because, for example, in the last 2 years, I'm like, if I look back at my memories, what are you thinking of? I'm thinking of the Vegas trip we just took. I'm thinking
Oh
of me
yeah.
visiting you up where you live. You know what I mean? Those are the
Yep.
things you think of. You don't think of,
Yeah.
yeah, last Tuesday I worked and then I took a nap and then I read a book and then I went to sleep. That's not what you're
Oh, that'd be
thinking of.
so. Yeah, no, it's true. It's the
Yeah.
bigger things, the bigger events, and bigger activities. And
Mm-hmm.
so, I guess from that perspective, what you're saying, I think while it is important to plan for the future, at the same time, you don't want to hyper focus where all
Yeah.
your decisions are focused on what's going to happen in the future. Because
Yeah.
you honestly can't predict tomorrow. Anything could happen,
Yeah.
but I
And
don't
I
know.
feel
I don't.
like
Hmm.
sometimes I fall into the trap of thinking like I will be the person I want to be in the future.
Yeah.
And that prevents you from being the person you want to be now. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like, I have to wait until I save X amount of money to be the person that I want to be, or I have to wait until I go on this trip to be the person I want to be, or whatever. Or I have
Hmm.
to wait until I get a new job, or whatever.
Hmm.
So I feel like that is something I can get into as well. And then also, like, procrastinating. You ever,
Yeah.
like, procrastinate in general, but, like, procrastinating your
Oh,
life?
yeah,
Like,
for
for
sure.
yeah, for example, just a quick example, especially because like something that's important to me is creativity and like
Hmm.
expressing yourself. I feel like that's an important pillar in life to make you alive, like create
Yeah.
something, man. Put like make something new. Like there's
Yeah.
nothing like making something new. And so a lot of times I'm like, okay, I want to make this, and then I'll spend 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days just researching it.
Oh, just researching Chanel.
Just researching.
Hmm.
And then I'm like, okay, I researched for 5 days and I'm still scared to do the thing.
Yeah.
And so that procrastination drives me insane.
Hmm. I think for me, mine is a security issue. Like in the sense of feeling secure.
Mm-hmm.
I am afraid of failure. And I think that is
Mm.
something that comes a lot from my upbringing, but also because at this stage I'm at a point where I don't want to say like I don't want to like toot my own horn, but I personally believe I'm more accomplished than a lot of people that I am around and associate with that are of my age group.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it is from work or peers that I had from like where I grew up. And so the fact that I'm already at this stage where it's like I've done so much, I feel as though I need to keep going forward. I need to keep going up. And so I always have this fear of like, oh, for example, when you helped me move, and I was like, yeah, I don't know, you guys. I don't know if I should furnish my apartment yet because I don't have the money yet and I don't want to put myself into debt that would cause me to have to cancel my lease and I have to move back home. And then everyone's going to be like, oh my gosh, you couldn't make it. Right?
Mm-hmm.
When it was just simply like, Cindy, your house is empty. Where are you going to sleep? You cannot sleep on a blow up mattress until the end of until you get your first paycheck, which is like
Mm-hmm.
4 months away. Right? And so
Yeah.
I guess it's like a garter. It's like more I'm being ruled by fear. And it's almost been a year since I graduated. In this past year, I've been trying to work harder into not focusing on the now, kind of like living for the, not living for the future, but not just being so stuck in the now and taking everything day by day and enjoying it. If that makes sense. I don't know if I just contradicted myself, but that's something. Ultimately, what I'm trying to say is what I've been working on is it's okay to be making mistakes. Like growing older and like living life is about making mistakes and facing challenges, and it's how you take those mistakes and challenges and grow from them. And for me, I've realized that I've been stopping myself from doing that
Yeah.
because I thought it was like a form of weakness if I failed. When it's like, no, it's you're supposed to do that. So I'm trying to come to terms with that where it's like, Cindy, you have been grinding for years. You've done it. Cool, great. Now it's time for you to live a little bit, which means, going out with your friends to Vegas and not budgeting correctly and sending yourself behind.
Woo, shout out Vegas.
Shout out Vegas. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. But I'm going to tell you this, like you said, I had a great time to the point
Mhm.
that I am mentally prepared and I'm mentally ready to do it again next year. But because I know what spending is like, and I know that I want to do it again next year, I'm going to prepare to do it or like save myself or save up to do it again. right? But when it comes 5-10 years down the line, it's never going to be like man, I'm still financially behind from going to Vegas. If it is that case, I'm doing many things wrong, and it's not just Vegas that I'm in that point. But what I'm going to be looking fondly on is my first year out of grad school. I was able to go to Las Vegas in the middle of March. I probably would have had exams and stuff and lab work. I probably wouldn't have been able to do that. I was able to go to Vegas in the middle of March and have a great time with good friends. And to me, that's what I'm realizing is much more important, even when it comes to work. I will have to say, for just in general, your perspective on life has been like adjusting my perspective on life. And I think
I'm an influencer.
Oh, I was going to say it's because you've kind of gone through this before, but sure, you're an influencer. But your perspective on life has been helping me adapt a more healthy perspective on life.
Because, let me ask you, Cindy.
Yeah.
What is my perspective on life? Tell me.
What is your perspective on life?
Yeah.
I feel as though your perspective on life, it's kind of like what I've been touching on is like things don't matter as much as you think that they matter.
Yeah.
And the examples that I would give is my fear of like asking off for work. You're just like, you get vacation. It's not like you're doing anything ridiculous. It's literally a day. They can't tell you anything because it's not like things are going to burn down. And if they're really going to burn down, you can get another job.
Yeah.
Right. It's like this job is not your only job. Or when it comes to like, oh, I don't know if I should get this couch because I don't have the money. Oh, well, you're going to have the money eventually and you need the couch. It's not what's the difference of paying off the couch later versus paying off the couch now. You know, like you make me realize that some things that I think are big deals are not that big of a deal. And you have been pushing me more to like enjoy life.
And I don't know the ironic thing is, so you know, I'm getting a therapist. I'll have my first session this Thursday.
Therapy! Yeah, Chanel! Therapy!
But I was telling my therapist, like, I feel like I'm not living. Like, I feel like I'm not living and every day is the same and I'm just kind of like floating through life. So that's ironic that you're like, you taught me how to live.
Well, it's so funny because if we compare our lives, I do believe like you have a lot more going on in your life than I do. And of course, we're two different people. So what your standard of is like what living is and my standard of what living is different. But to me, you're living because you're out, you have hobbies, you have activities that you do, you are able to navigate your job in a way that you're not putting in too much effort, but you're able to make a decent amount of money to live versus like where I'm at, I don't have hobbies. That was the whole first episode. I don't have hobbies and I'm still trying to figure out my life as far as like, where do I put my money? Like a lot of what I'm learning about this stage of my life has come from your experience because you've done it already, you know? So watch now, after you go through therapy and you get yourself settled, it's going to be like in 1 to 2 years, which is I think the amount of time you've been out of grad school. I'm going to be like, Chanel, I'm not living, you know?
Yeah.
This could just be the cycle that is going to, and I'm going to come to you and you're going to have all the answers because you've already lived it. But I think that might be where the dichotomy is. It's just like, we are, even though we're the same age, we're at different life stages, you know? So our paths aren't linear, of course, right? Like we don't have linear life paths. So when you're on your up, I'm going to be on my down, vice versa. And at some point we may align. Like, I think that's the reason why we're friends. We're at a path, even though some intricacies are different, we're at a path in life in which we align, but our paths are not going to be linear. If that makes sense. So it's just kind of like we're rolling through the punches together, but the way in which we're taking those punches is different. I might be knocked out and you might be going for another swing. I love analogies. I'm an analogies girl. But yeah, I don't know. Do you agree with that at all, or do you think any different?
Yeah, I think I agree with that, and I find it very interesting that aging can affect you in ways that you don't notice until time has passed. You know what I'm trying to say? So like,
Yeah.
for example, when we were like teenagers oh God. Do you remember like, let's say like 16.
Okay.
16, what was your perspective, like 16, 17, what was your perspective on life? You know what I mean? Like, what was your mentality? What were your goals? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, when I was 16, I didn't have a license yet. So I remember feeling stuck because I couldn't really go anywhere. And I felt as though, because I still live with my parents. At this time, when you're 16, I think I was a junior or senior in high school, and I was thinking about my future, and I was just like, this is where I hope to be in 5 to 10 years. You know, I don't even know if by the time I was 16, I had decided my major. I was just like, I had a lot of hopes and dreams of where I was going to be, but I can't really remember. 16, it's been over 10 years since we were 16.
It feels like a whole
decade
life ago. It honestly feels like a whole life ago.
It was
being
a whole
16.
Life ago.
Like,
yeah.
I feel like there's certain like personality things that remain the same typically, but like completely different person today.
Yeah. I mean, my environment was completely different. I grew up in a very Republican area, which had little to no POCs. My sense of humor is different for sure because, you know, being one of the only few Black people in an all-white area, you have to have your own like defensive system. So I don't even think the 16-year-old me and me now would relate on a lot. I think 16-year-old me will be happier with where I'm at right now because I felt like I was stifled over there. But my whole purview and perspective is so completely different. I think I'd be unrecognizable to my 16-year-old self, and then vice versa of me looking at my 16-year-old self. I don't think I'd be able to recognize that person. But again, it's because of your environment. Your environment, the people that you're around, shapes your perspective on life. And getting older is kind of breaking from that mold and making your own decisions and maturing, which is where I believe I'm at right now.
So for me, when I was 16, it was all about college. We're going to college. And then, you know, we're going to go through all the steps that were set before me. And so I was really naive. And I remember I chose my major. I originally wanted to do psychology. Well, actually, I changed my mind a lot. I wanted to be a surgeon. And then I was watching TLC with like the, you know, the surgery shows. And I was like, there's no way in hell.
Yeah, those shows gross me out.
That's disgusting.
For real.
I would have to close my eyes. I hate it. So I was like, nah, maybe that's not gonna work. And because my parents, the reason why I wanted to be a surgeon is because my parents always said like, doctor or lawyer, choose one. Doctor or lawyer, you're gonna be one or the other. And I was like, I don't want to be a lawyer because that's a bunch of reading and it's boring. And no, I don't want to have to defend a person and have their lives like they're you know what I'm trying to say, like their life is in my hand. And that's the same thing for a surgeon, but like I don't know, the justice system scares me, rightfully so. And then for after that I was like, okay, I'll be a what's it called, like a family doctor, PCP, whatever. No, not a pediatrician, just a regular PCP, primary care physician. Yeah. And so I actually did I won like this internship type thing where it's like you go for a day and then you shadow someone in a job that you want to do. Which if y'all got programs like that for the youngins out there, please do those programs because it's great to get like hands-on experience and like actually get to talk to people in the career that you want to be in because they will tell you the real and then you go, oh. So yeah, it was this old white man, and he's like, yeah, it's a lot of paperwork. And yeah, It's just, this is what I do. And I'm like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
that seems like a job I'd be miserable in. So I was like, okay,
Right.
it can't be a primary care physician. So let's see what's next. I could be a surgeon. Maybe that seems exciting. And then, I was like, the guts. If I see people's guts on the outside in real life, I'm out. And then after that, I was like, okay, well, I could be a psychiatrist, because I was taking my psychology class and the teacher was super cool and it was very interesting because of psychology. And so I was like, oh, I could do that. And so I applied to schools with that major. And then after a while, right before I was about to go, I changed my major to math, because math was something that I was good at. And then I was also tutoring at the time. I had my own tutoring business, as you know, if you watched our previous episode. Okay. Shout out to the real ones out there. The Money is Everything episode 4.
Just a nice plug.
Yes. And so I was like, okay, I want to be a teacher, but I know I did not want to be in high school ever again. Yeah. I did not like high school. Not because of just the schedule. Like, literally my senior year, I would show up late every single day because I just could not wake up that early. But I digress. So, so I chose math, and then I went in and I was like, okay, I'm going to be a college professor. And that was my goal. I'm going to become a college professor. Yeah. So if we fast forward to like the young adult stage, let's say like 20 years old. What's your mentality? What's your life perspective then?
At 20 years old. Wow, I have such a terrible memory. I don't know.
I think you're blocking it out.
Maybe. I don't know if it's a mixture of, how somebody will ask you, what is your all-time favorite movie? And every movie you've ever watched has like exited your head.
Yep.
So let me set the stage. So at 20 years old, I was a junior, probably senior, because I turned 21 in my senior year of college. So at this point, I'm just like, I'm hard set into my major. I'm a chemical engineer at this point. Funny enough, similar to you, my parents also gave me an ultimatum, but mine was doctor, lawyer, or engineer. And at the time, I knew I liked math. I had considered being a mathematician myself, and I think my parents would have been okay with that because it's a hard science. I don't think they wanted me to be like, I want to be a historian, there's nothing wrong with historians, but I have African parents. If you have African parents, it's either you're a doctor, lawyer, engineer, or disappointment. And I was going to kind of go to the left and do mathematics, which is along the lines of engineering. You know what I mean? I'm sure my parents would have been like, that's fine. But I remember I had a conversation with my dad where he was just like, you should pick a career and something that you're good at, but something that you're good at, but something that you're okay with hating, because everyone will eventually hate their career. It's just the way of life. And so because of that advice, I was like, I enjoy math enough, but I don't want to hate it. And I'm so grateful because math got hard. Like,
girl, you do not even know, bro. What was the highest math class you took?
Calc 3.
Yeah, that was easy. That was light work.
I know.
The stuff that comes after that, Cindy,
is difficult. I know.
And it made me hate math.
See? I got an A+ in Calc 3, and I look fondly on my mathematics classes. But I kind of went from math to chemistry to chemical engineering when I realized that I had more career options with chemical engineering. And that's kind of where I was. So as a junior in college, I was kind of between a rock and a hard place, because even though I did not pick a career of becoming like a medical doctor, I was getting a lot of pressure from my parents to become a doctor in philosophy, so a PhD. So at that time, where I was going to school, there was a major corporation that was doing a lot of hiring for chemical engineers. And so a lot of people who were in my graduating class were applying for jobs and preparing for that. And I was kind of on the fence because I had done internships with that company before. I was pretty sure that if I had applied, I would be set. But that would mean that I'd be stuck in Arizona forever. And by the time I had reached 20 years old, I was fully certain. I had met more people of color, and I was fully certain that Arizona was not the place that I wanted to live. So I was just like, okay, well, I don't know if I necessarily want to work for this company here in Arizona or if I want to escape. And the only way I could think of escaping was going to grad school. I think, again, some naivety. I didn't really know of the fact that jobs had different locations. Like, I had done internships outside of where I went and got my undergrad, but for some reason I was very focused on the fact that the only places that I could really get a job was the state that I was in, because they wouldn't have to, I would be like easier to move around. There would be no need for relocation. I now know that you can literally go anywhere and corporations have enough money to send you around the world. But I was kind of between going to stay in Arizona, take a job that would pay me right out the gate, or go to grad school where I had the opportunity to explore a new place, but I'd have to take a pay cut. So my whole mentality and my focus was just like, I need to figure out my entire life today.
Yeah.
And so I was stressed. My poor 20-year-old self. I was so stressed because I really thought my entire world and my entire life was indicative on the decision that I made right at that moment.
Yeah. That's definitely real. I think my mentality at 20 was similar because that's when the hard math started. It's like when the hard math, like, put it into like fifth gear, whatever that gear is, they turned it all the way up. Oh, that when I was 20, I was miserable. Absolutely. Like crying in my car, like losing it, just not keeping it together. And I remember one time, oh my God, I was having an office hour with a professor. These are one of the things that I think of before I go to sleep at night, like keeps me awake. So I was meeting with a professor and he was asking, because I kept missing his morning class. I would come late or I would just miss it. I don't remember why. I think it was just because I had a lot going on and I was like trying to study for other classes and whatever. And so I remember he was like, hey, yeah, and he was Irish too. Hey, I can't do an Irish accent.
Yeah, don't embarrass yourself.
Let me not. His accent was amazing, but let me not do that to myself. I'm just a wee lass. Let me not. So he was like, hey, yeah. So I just wanted to, have this meeting with you. He emailed me and was like, can we, come in, talk to me, let's see what's going on. And he was essentially like, hey, yeah, like what's going on? I just wanted to, check in on you. Like, can you tell me like what's going on? And I was like, well, and broke down crying in front of this professor, like literally bawling my eyes out. And he was like, whoa, rightfully so. He wasn't expecting that. But yeah. And so he was super nice. He was like, okay, let's go take a walk. Let's go take a walk. Let me buy you a tea. Yeah, let's take a walk and you take a moment. Okay. But yeah, so he was super nice. But that was me at 20 years old because I had that same mentality of like, this is my life. And I was under so much pressure to graduate in 4 years. And then I wanted to be a college professor. So I'm sitting here looking at my grades because I need to go to a PhD and the grades aren't grading in the way I need them to grade. It was good enough to graduate. We graduated with over 3.0, but they want you to have like a 3.5 in your subject classes. Are you joking?
Yeah, that to me was crazy. I barely made that cutoff. Can you believe that?
Woo! I certainly did not make that cutoff. Because if you isolate those like major classes, it gets brutal real fast. It does get brutal. Real fast. The GEs were saving me. But yeah, so I was like super stressed about getting things done. And, I experienced, racism in my math program. I had an advisor that absolutely sucked. And he, went out of his way to tell me, oh, yeah, you know what? Oh, yeah, this is your first proof class you're taking. Proofs are when the math actually gets hard. Crazy hard. Like to the point where you're like, what are we doing? Yeah. What are we doing? Oh, okay. And then they didn't like preface it right to where we didn't know that was going to be the rest of our majors. It was like the introductory course to the rest of our majors. Whoa. Everybody, like so many people would do horrible in that class because like it's difficult. You would have to learn all of these proofs and you would have to memorize them, and you had to memorize them because the professor would put too much on the exam that if you are actually working them out, you will fail the exam. For example, my first exam, I went in there, started working. We had 50 minutes. They had, I think, 10 problems. 10 problems, math problems. We're writing full paragraphs, people. Full paragraphs of math. Like, my homework looked like essays. So we're writing paragraphs trying to solve these problems. There's 10 problems. Some of them had multiple parts. For a math test, that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. At the level we're at, ridiculous.
I can't even. The fact that you're saying you're writing essays for your math, I mean, it's just
essays. And in future classes, because he was a crazy one. In future classes, we would get 5 problems on an exam for 50 minutes. 5 problems. And everybody would be there the entire time. So like he was ridiculous.
Yeah.
I remember that first exam. I was working. He said, pens down. I said, girl, the whole class is sitting there and we all go, what? Pens down? I finished half of the exam. I got every single thing I worked on correct. 100% correct.
But yet you didn't do well because you just couldn't finish.
I just couldn't finish. So I went and talked to this man and I was like, hey, I think I need more time on these exams because, you know, it's very difficult to, you know, get all of these things done and whatever. And he immediately insinuated that I had a learning disability.
Oh.
Yeah. And then later on,
that you got everything correct? The heck?
He probably did. I brought my exam, but yeah, he doesn't care. And then later on in the semester, he basically told me, because he was my advisor too. Great. And so he basically told me that I should switch majors because he didn't think I would be able to make it through the program. So hearing something like that when you're 20 and you think that school and your job is like your life, and like if you don't get those things down, you're done. Talk about a self-esteem bomb explosion. Nuclear reactor just went off like crazy. So it doesn't help that in your formidable years, a lot of times, especially if you're a Black woman, there are people there who are just ready and willing to drag you down and like take you out. And so that definitely impacted the rest of my time at undergrad and beyond, right? Trust a professor? Never.
Never.
I hate professors to this day. There are some good apples. There are some good apples. Few and far between. So that was my like 20s vibe. I was like losing my mind. And then after I graduated, I was 20. I just turned 21. I went through a whole depression after dealing with, 4 years of that nonsense. So just not the best place mentally. So I feel like my life perspective there, it was kind of like the beginning, like 16 was like forming ideas and being like, life is a musical and we're just gonna make it out and everything's gonna be great. And then 20 was like, hit the wall. No, this is what life really is. And it was kind of like the first indication of, oh, this isn't what I thought it was. And I need to figure out something or I'm not gonna make it. So then after that, Cindy, let's say for you, right?
Yeah.
Let's say 23. What's your life perspective then?
Oh my God. I was going through to 23. So I'll just say, because to me, 23 to 24 are all mushed together because I turned 23 right before COVID started. And I was 24, still in COVID. To me, my world was ending. Kind of like what you were going through with your professor. I was going through that with my advisor because I was a second year PhD student. And for me, when everything started hitting the fan was my second year PhD. I started to become more aware of the fact that my advisor was, and we're going to talk about this more in a future episode when it comes to grad school. So I won't hit on it, but my advisor wanted the worst for me. He insinuated that I should consider dropping the program and making me
They always do that.
They always do it. Making me feel as though the work that I wasn't doing was decent enough, and I was just kind of going through it where it's like, I've wasted my life. Because if he were to kick me out at that point, I would be about 3 years in, and it's very difficult when you start a PhD program at the place that I got my degree to kind of leave the program with just a master's. They make it quite hard for you. So I was just like, wow, my life is... I've wasted my time because I have nothing to show for these 3 years. And the person who has the power to dictate my future is telling me that I'm not good enough at what I'm doing. And so I was just going through it. Like, everything sucked. I shut down. It was so bad. And COVID didn't help it either. I feel like I repressed a lot of this because it was a dark time. Like, I was living by myself. I was going through a toxic roommate thing. So I went from having a toxic roommate to living by myself. That's when I started owning a property. So now I had to spend more money than I even ever had on a place that I couldn't afford my place. So I was desperately looking for a roommate in the pandemic, dealing with a boss who wanted to fire me. And I was just like, what the heck? So all those dreams and aspirations that I had from like 16 to 20, I'm just like, wow, those were just hype dreams. Those were hype dreams, right? Because I was just like, the reason why I was in grad school was because, one, parents thought it was a good idea, but I had convinced myself that that's what I needed to be able to be successful in life. And here I am being told I'm not even good enough to do it. So it was difficult. 23 was bad.
Whew.
23 was bad.
Yeah. You see, my 23, 24, so that's when I was ending my master's program. I actually had a good time in my master's program for the most part. The bad part was applying to PhD programs, to be honest.
Yeah.
That was a lot. I think I applied to like 35 programs. It was quite literally insane. Quite literally insane. All or nothing. So yeah, and then I went into the next PhD program, and I feel like, or I went into a PhD program, right? And that was an absolute horrible. It was so bad. But I feel like you were having the moment I had when I was 20, when you were 23, 24, right? Yep. For me, I already had that moment. So this time I was like, say whatever you're going to say. I don't care. Like, I've already been hurt. I can't be hurt again. Like, I don't care. Yeah. Like, you people are crazy. And like, I really was 10 toes down on, I know who I am. I know that I'm awesome. You people are the ones that are psychopaths, and you need to fix yourselves, or I got to go. That was my mentality. And so I think at that point, that confirmed what was started when I was 20. It confirmed to me that life is not what it seems, and that you have to be very wary, and you have to, really think critically about things that people just assume are normal. That's the kind of vibes that I was really solidifying when I was 23, 24, because a PhD program is such like it's so prestigious and it's academia and it's going to, if you have to be good enough to be in a PhD program, and you have to suffer and prove yourself and make no money and die on the Walmart floor. Like, that's what you have to do. You have to suffer to make it through this institution. Like, that's the vibes. And so when I got in there, I was like, wait a second, let me critically think for half a second. This doesn't make sense. What y'all are trying to have me do right now does not make sense at all. And so that's when it was like literally because I had that experience when I was 20, when I came in, it was go time, baby. I knew, Cindy, I came in August, right? That's when the semester started.
Yes.
I knew by November I was not staying in that program.
Oh, really?
Absolutely.
Was it really that quick?
That quick. And you can ask Kyra too. I told her. I was like, y'all, because we had that little town hall situation, which I think it was October, November, around then. And so when that happened, and we'll talk about this in season 2 in more detail. It's a good story. Just wait. But so after that nonsense happened and these people showed their behinds, I was out immediately. I was literally talking to that one lady. I was talking to her and I was like, how do I get out?
Yeah.
And so I was sitting behind the scenes like, oh, what? Oh, you want me to do this? Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Oh, you said this? Okay. I don't care. Like I was just biding my time because I knew I was out.
Yeah.
And so that was, we kind of have a little difference right there, a little difference. Because I learned that lesson earlier in life to where when they try to do it again, I was like, I'm not having this. I'm gone.
Yeah.
you ain't ever going to catch me. I've already been through this and I survived. Like, it's not happening
again. What is the meme? You cannot trick me. Isn't that what they said? You know what I'm talking about?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
That's awkward. But I think somebody who's listening will know.
Probably. What show?
Funny. I don't know what show it's from.
It sounds familiar. You do not trick me. Something like that.
But it's not said like that. But I'm going to find it. I'm going to send it to you because it's a meme. I've never seen the show, as most memes. I've never seen the show, but I can see this meme in my head clear as day. And I feel like it's perfect for this scenario. So just agree with me and be like, yeah.
I agree.
Okay.
I know that meme.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But yeah, no, that's fair. So I guess now we can skip because that's 23. We can hit on
now we can talk about now. Yeah, 27.
Yeah. What is your life mentality like now?
Yeah, I feel like I'm in another change, a little flux, because for me, after getting out of the PhD program, I'm like, oh shoot, what I worked for literally the time I was 17 is no longer feasible. I no longer want to be a college professor. And so it was kind of pivot time. Yeah. And so for the last 2 years that I've been out, hallelujah. And can you imagine I would still be in that program, Cindy?
It's crazy. It's actually insane. You would still be there. And I think you would have 1 to 2 more years left? Yeah.
And I would be thinking my lucky stars every day that I'm not in that program. But, so I feel like the previous 2 years of me being free from that program has been kind of like me licking my wounds and kind of just like trying to get into the flow and trying to have like a peaceful life for once. Yeah. And so I feel like now I'm getting to the point where I'm like, okay, you've done the licking of the wounds, you've done the peaceful. Now it's time to like live instead of just like survive. You know what I'm saying? So now I'm thinking, like we've been planning a lot of trips. We've been starting this podcast. I have some other social media endeavors that I'm going through. And so I want to do the things that I want to do instead of just doing the things I need to do to survive. Yeah. Yeah. That's where I'm at now.
I would have to echo that, especially because this is... You're like, I've been 2 years out and I just finished my first year post academia. Like I've done school from the moment that I was 4 years old in private school to about 26. I was in school. And so this is like my first year not doing school and I'm just trying to enjoy it. Right. I've taken so many trips. I think in the span of since I defended, I've been to Disneyland, I've been to San Diego. Okay, well, maybe I haven't. I've been to places for work. So I've been to Utah. I've been back to Houston. And I have trips planned of like going abroad and future plans of going abroad. It's just more future life planning of enjoyment that I've done in previous years. Because while in school, I couldn't plan to go anywhere because in grad school, the summers are meant for research.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think my only vacations were going back and forth between home, and it was only for the holidays. And the expectation was, since I wasn't an international student, I wasn't allowed as much time off because I could, quote unquote, take more trips, but the trips would have to be shorter because I'm closer to home, and the expectation would be I could take more trips. But when you're dealing with crazy, crazy bosses, they don't want you to take more trips. So I was pretty much stuck where I was in school all the time with no end really at sight. So my whole mentality and focus is now, I feel more empowered. I have the degree. Even though my advisor at the time tried to tell me I couldn't do it, I now have the degree. And I make a decent amount of money to be able to live comfortably in a place in which it's not that really easy to have what I have, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think my mentality is much more positive. Kind of like what you were saying about how in grad school, people couldn't tell you anything. That's how I feel for my job. And we've talked about this before when I'm just like, yeah, I don't think I could ever think any boss that I have from this point onwards is never going to be bad to me because I believe my supervisor or my advisor from grad school was probably the worst human being that I could have ever worked for.
Absolutely.
So I feel as though now I do have some more self-respect and know-how of my abilities and my capabilities, but even still, I don't think I'm going to be as easily affected by my supervisors or future bosses because my old advisor was so bad. And I'm like, the standards are also different. You can't talk to, the way I was talked to and the way that I was treated in grad school is a very, very quick email to HR and a very, very fast firing of anybody who would deem themselves capable of doing such a thing. So again, I feel more empowered because the dynamics have shifted. We are all adults and we're all equal playing field. They will tell you in grad school, for the audience that is listening, they will tell you in grad school that you and your advisor are equals. You are not. That is
absolutely
such a lie.
Not.
You are not. And they will play at that and manipulate you and make you feel terrible for thinking otherwise. And that's how you get stuck in some toxic situations. Now here in industry, that is the same. Even though that is my supervisor, even though I do report to him, we are still more of equals because I have just as equal of an opportunity to go and report him for the stuff that he does as he does to report me for the things that I do. And I feel like this is more of a healthy dynamic and working relationship because he has no control over my vacation outside of what I'm contractually allowed. He has no say over my vacation. All he can really say is, hey, we do have this deadline coming up. So if you're going to be gone, we need to get this deadline done before you leave. And that's like months in advance versus grad school. Oh, you want to go on vacation? Well, what about this deadline that I never told you that's due the day that you're in Aruba or something?
Yep.
And I'm bringing my laptop and
I'm on
typing.
PTO. I'm on PTO.
Yeah.
Reclaiming my time.
Oh, every single time you say something, I just think of a meme. My mind is a meme. Anyways. But yeah, that's where I'm at right now. And I believe right now is the healthiest of my mind states, just because I believe when I was younger, it was very focused on successes and like being successful. And now it's just like, I just want to be happy.
Yep, exactly. 100%.
So yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Look at us.
I know. I'm proud of us on many things. The fact that we've been talking about this podcast for so long.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think
like literally since 2020, like 2021.
Yeah, we've been talking about doing this podcast. So I'm glad from that perspective. I'm proud of us for actually getting to it. And I'm also proud of like how we've grown. I think in this first season, you can kind of see how we have reached this point and how we're kind of tackling the end of our 20s. And even though from society's standpoint, that we might be doing things a little bit late, we are still doing things at our own pace and excelling at it. So
yeah. And you know, I'm curious what 30-year-old Chanel and Cindy, 35, 40, 50, oh my god, 80-year-old, like I wonder what they're gonna think about us.
You know, and I mean, what I actually kind of like is the fact that this podcast is going to be a time capsule of that. because we're going to have these forever. When we are 40, 50, 60, I would like to think we might still be doing this when we're 30, but when we're 40, 50, 60, we can sit back and go, hey, like I could call you up like, Chanel, do you remember that Aging is Everything episode? And you'll be like, yeah, I remember recording it. And we'll sit down and listen and be like, oh my God, that's how we were like in our teens. This is how we were like in our mid-20s. This is how we were like before we were 30. And I'm hoping, I know for a fact we're going to look back and be happy at where we are. But I'm just so curious to know how we're going to take what we're learning and doing now and just shape it for the future.
Yep. And, you know, I'm excited for the future.
I am too. Vacation. Mm-hmm. Japan. Ireland. Hey.
Canada.
Hey. Canada. Oh, yeah. At least for those years. And that's crazy because we only have trips really planned up until we hit 30. And then after that, it's just like, what's next?
And, you know, I'm down to keep going on, you know, a trip a year.
Oh,
big trip a year.
I'm going on a big trip a year. Best believe. Mm-hmm. Best believe. If not multiple. I can't wait till I get into that bracket where I can do multiple. But for now, I'm good with one.
I'm just going to Europe for the weekend. No big deal.
I don't know if I'll ever reach to that point where it's just a casual, quick trip to Europe.
You never know.
When I reach private jet status.
Yep.
If that ever happens, I don't know if I want to reach that status. I feel like I'm gonna have to sell some souls to be able to reach that status, and I don't feel comfortable doing that.
No, thank you.
No thanks. But yeah,
alrighty.
This is a great way to end, right? A great place to end.
This is a perfect ending. Good job to us, and shout out to our younger selves, and shout out to our future selves. You better have your lives together, or not.
Together.
Just do
no pressure.
Do what makes you happy.
Right. Happiness at the forefront.
Exactly. Alrighty. I'll talk to you later, Cindy.
Bye.
See you in the next season. Is someone knocking on my door? Hello? Open the door. Open the door. I'm filming a podcast right now. Goodbye.
Hi.
You want to say hi to the podcast?
No, thank you.
Okay, bye.